Alright, so hello and welcome to the continued coverage of the walkthrough series, and in this episode we are looking at 9618 variant 41 of May June 2021, and we are doing the final question, which is question number 3. So let's look at what we have going on here. So the question says that we have a computer program that does those things, right? I'm not read everything there. Then we are given a class diagram right here. So the first task is to create a class, rather to declare the class called treasure chest. And you can see that for our class diagram, we have the fields right here. That's the first section. And in here, anything that is brackets in it, those are the functions that are inside of that particular class. So let's go ahead and look at the implementation that I have going on here. So my class declaration starts on line 2. Then you see that I have the class declaration as well as the constructor. One thing that I always want to point out in the event that you get a question like this one, this was June of 2021. They had just switched from the old P4 structure to this one. So I strongly believe that there was an oversight when they did set this question, because you cannot say you are not to declare any other method and just declare a class with 3 variables and no constructor. It doesn't make any sense. And even if we were to turn to their later papers that came after this one, that is 22 up all the way up to 2025, you see that they always say that you have to declare the class and its constructor. It's always needed that you declare the class and its constructor. So in the event that you come across something like this, maybe in the future, but I don't think it would ever happen again, just know that when you get a class diagram, you should always declare the class, right, along with the fields as well as the constructor. It's always needed there. So for the implementation of the treasure chest class, you see that we have the class declaration and the constructor as well. Then, of course, we are passing the question answer points as arguments. Remember, self is always going to be the first argument. Then we will be done with the constructor definition. You can always check out my Python series where I go into great detail about the Python constructor. Particularly, I think I have an episode on constructors that explains how or when to use self, or why we use self in Python constructors, as well as class level functions, as it were. Then, of course, you would go ahead and copy this code and paste it inside of the evidence document. Moving on to part B, we have a text file called treasure chest data that's going to store data for 5 questions, and the format for the information in the text file is like this. So let's say, for instance, let me just open the file so that you can see what we have going on in there. So this is the text file, is it? So you can see that we have 2 times 2, 4, 10, 100 divided by 10, 10, 15, and so forth and so on. So essentially these are questions. So question, answer, points, question, answer, points, question, answer, points, and so forth and so on. So that's essentially what they're explaining right here, that it's question, answer, points, then next up we also have a question. So the read data function is supposed to read each question, answer, and points from the text file. So we need to read the question, answer, and the points from the text file. After doing that, we need to create an object of type treasure chest for each question, right? So we take the first 3 lines, create an object, then take the next 3 lines, create an object. That's what we want to do. Then we are also to declare an array called array treasure of type treasure chest. Then we need to append each object to the array. After creating it, then we also need to use exception handling to output an appropriate message if the file is not found. So switching to the tab where I have the solution going on here, we'll scroll down to the read data function, which is on line 29 all the way to line 47. So we are declaring the treasure chest variable that was mentioned right here, right? Then we also have, we are now going to read from the file, is it? So we are opening the file in read mode on line 32. Then we are simply setting a loop that's going to run forever, basically, because while true simply means that it's going to run for as long as we need it to. Then we are taking the current line and stripping any spaces and storing that as the question. Then if we haven't reached the end of the file, we are simply going to continue and move on to take the next line, which is an answer. So we are reading the line, stripping any spaces, then converting it into an integer, then putting it inside of answer. Then we do the same thing, reading the line, stripping of any spaces, then converting into an integer and storing inside of points. After which, now we are calling the treasure chest constructor. and passing the three values that we just created right here. So the question, the answer, and the points as arguments to the object, and then we are going to append it inside of this treasure chest list, as it were. So this is going to continue for as long as we have a question inside of what? Inside of our file, as it were. Then, of course, we are using exception handling to handle a situation whereby we did not find the file. So we are simply going to print a file was not found. Then we're also going to have a value error so that in the event that we try to input something that cannot be converted on lines 34, 37, or 38, we can just output a value error. Then, of course, we're just going to exit out of the method, as it were. Then in the ultimately, we are just going to return treasure chests, because we would have created a treasure chest list that is treasure chest objects, as it were. Then, of course, you'd go ahead and copy this code and paste it inside of the evidence document. Moving on to the next part of the question, which is part C, we have to create the get question method. So it does this the following things. It trains the question. So let's go ahead and look at the implementation. It's inside of the treasure chest class. So this is the get question, right? It returns self.question. Then we also need to have a method check answer that takes the user's answer as a parameter. It returns true if the answer is correct and false otherwise. So let's go ahead and check that out. So if the user's answer is equal to the self.answer, right? That is the self.answer is this particular object's answer right here. So if they are the same, then we are going to return that answer, as it were. So if they are equal, we are just going to return a boolean true. Then if they are not equal, then it's going to return a boolean false. Then on lines, sorry, on moving on to item number 3, we have the get points method, is it? So it does these things. If you get the answer correct on the first attempt, you get the maximum points. If you fail to get the answer on the first attempt but get it on the second attempt, you are going to get the points divided by 2. Then on the third or fourth attempt, it's going to be point divided by 4. Then if you fail to get it on the first, second, or the third or fourth attempt, your points are going to be 0. So that's what they are essentially saying right here. So coming to the solution, you see that we are making use of the match case. Let me point out that this is new in Python. It was introduced in Python 3.10. So you can see here, if you look down here, I'm using Python 3.13. So it is available, the match case. If you are using anything older than 3.10, you're not going to be able to use you're not going to be able to use the match cases. So make sure that you're using the latest version of Python so that you can leverage the match case construct. So in the event that the points, in the case that attempt is 1, we return the maximum points. 2, we return points divided by 2. So remember, for integer division in Python, you need to make use of the double /. Otherwise, if you use a single /, you are going to run into issues and your load implementation isn't going to be correct. Then we're also using 3 or 4. Remember, the pipe symbol is the OR operator in Python, right? Alternatively, you could just do this, right? Using that wouldn't work actually. I think it's only available if you are using it inside of loops, I believe. So you'd actually have to make use of that pipe symbol. So that is 3 or 4. That would work. So you are just simply going to return points div 4. Then the underscore when used in a match case simply means that we are going to match anything, right? It simply means catch all. So in the event that it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3 or 4, we are simply going to return 0. So that's what's going to happen there. Then of course you'd go ahead and copy this code and paste it inside of the evidence document. Then moving on to item number 4, we are supposed to implement the following things inside of the main method. So we have a lot going on here. So let's try to do it step by step. So we are going to call the procedure read data. So inside of main, you see that we did call read data earlier on. So we are calling read data. So now read data is going to return an array, is it? So we are now going to store it inside of chests. Then after which we have taken care of the first requirement, then we need to ask the user to enter a number between 1 and 5. So we come here, and we are using a loop. So we're getting to a loop, then we prompt the user to enter a question between 1 and 5, right? And we convert that into a number. So if the number is less than one question number, sorry, if question number is less than or equal to 1, or if question number is less than or equal to 5, is it? We are simply going to break out of that loop and tell the user to enter a number between 1 and 5, then the loop starts again. Then if, wait, is that? Yeah. So then we are also using exception handling in the event that the user doesn't type a number, right? So here we're just validating the input to make sure that it's between 1 and 5 right here. Then here we are now handling a situation whereby the user types in a string instead of a number. So you simply tell them that there's a value error, please enter a number. Then if they enter a valid number, then the code is going to come right here, right? So you see that if number is valid, we are simply going to break out of the loop, then the code is going to come here. Otherwise, you're going to stay inside of the loop until you enter a valid number right there. So let's say we entered 3, right? So it simply means that 3 is inside of this range. So we are going to break out of that loop. Then we can come here and maybe to, all right, it's fine. I can always fix it. I wanted to fix the notation that I used there, but I think it's okay for now. So what we can do now is, let's say we passed 3, right? Let's say we entered 4 or 3 or any number really. You need to remember that lists in Python, they are 0 index based. So it means that if someone were to type that I want question 3, in actual fact, the question inside of the list would be on index position 2, because the first element inside of the index is 0, 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, right? So that is for a list with 5 elements. The indices are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you typed 3, you actually want the element at index position 3. So it means that it's actually on index position 2 in the list, is it? So this is why we are decrementing by 1. So I think the whole idea is to just remember that index positions are always going to be n minus 1. If you want the 5th element, then its index position is actually 4, that is n minus 1. So that's what we're doing on line 65 there. Then we are setting attempts to 0. Then before you make an attempt, your correct is set to false. That's what we are doing on line 67. Then we are saying that while it is not correct, you have made the first attempt, so we are just incrementing attempt by 1 on line 75. Then we ask the question there by making use of the chest object and getting the question. Then we try and check to see, rather we prompt the user to type in an answer. Then if they don't type a valid answer, they're simply going to get that value error right there. So we're just using exception handling to make sure that the user types in a number, not a string. Then should the answer be correct, then we are going to, no, before we do that, we're actually going to call the chest method, the chest object, and the check answer method, or the check answer function, and pass the user's answer there. So what you're simply going to do, this is going to return a boolean true or false, is it? So we are going to store it inside of correct. Basically, we are just going to update correct as it were. Then if it is not correct, then we are simply going to tell the user that it is incorrect and they should try again. So essentially, they are going to stay inside of the loop. But if it is now correct, because remember, correct is false, right? So if we are saying if not true, if not false, then it simply means that you're going to stay inside of the loop. Then if it is now correct, then it's going to break out of the loop as it were. Then we are going to calculate the points. So we were discussing these requirements right there, right? Output the question that matches the question entered by the user. That's what we did right here on line 72. Then check if the input by the user is correct by using the check answer method. That's what we are doing on line 80. Then repeat until the user inputs the correct answer. So the correct answer that's being handled by this loop, is so we are going to stay inside of this loop until you provide the correct answer. Then count how many times the user attempted the question. So each time you make an attempt, it's being incremented or it's being updated right there on line 71. Then count how many times the user attempted the question. That's what we're doing. Use the method get points to return the number of points awarded. So that's what we are doing on lines 85 there. So we are going to get the points, passing attempts to the get points function that we did declare earlier on, and storing the value inside of points there. Then output the number of points that is awarded, that the user is awarded. So we are simply telling the user how many attempts they took and the number of points they attempted, accrued rather, the number of points they accrued. So we are going to test the program. We are going to select question 1 and answer it correctly the first time. Then the second time around, we are going to select question 5 and answer it correctly the second time around. So let's actually go ahead and look at that in action. I can just go ahead and click on the play button here. Maybe before I do that, let me just pause a keyboard interrupt because I have a lot going on my down there in my content. So cycle the commands. So they said question 1 and you should answer it correctly the first time around. So the answer is 4. So correct, you took 1 attempt. Then you are awarded 10 points. Then running the program one more time, let's choose 5. So what is 3000 plus 4000? Let's say maybe 85. Then it's going to be incorrect, but we know that the correct answer is 7000, and they said that we should get it correct the second time around. So you see that it took us 2 attempts and we were awarded 2 marks. So yeah, that's just about it for this video. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.